oh my god, CD, like a new Avatar series has been announced and Korra is the worst. Pixie, why do I just know you're being stupid again? So, a new Avatar series has just been announced following the Earth Kingdom Avatar after Korra, a post-apocalyptic story where all the old systems and states have been destroyed down to just 7 havens, and concerns the new Avatar and her relationship with her sister during a time where the stature of the Avatar has been severely damaged. The information on this actually leaked months ago, and more than a few people cocked an ear that the premise sounded eerily similar to the one I pitched myself last year about an earthbending Avatar named Neva, primarily adventuring with her non-bending older sister named Lavi, and whose central premise was tearing down the established rules of what it means to be an Avatar story. Hell, according to the leaks, their names are Pavi and Nisha. Either I am weirdly on the same creative wavelength as Pryke, or I am having creative premonitions. The announcement comes alongside continuing buzz that a film about the original gang is in production, though strangely enough, no actual art or visuals have been released. That's likely because there aren't any. The film is slated for a 2026 release date, meaning it's likely still being animated as we speak. As for the series, it doesn't have a release date and is a single 26-episode season, and so it's likely just out of pre-production with a finalized script. Actually, Lily, it's like 2 13-episode seasons. Shut up! Shut the fuck up! 13 episodes is not a season. 8 episodes is not a season. 26 episodes is a season. The leaks contain nothing but concept art, and there's so little material to work with that clickbait channels have been resorting to hiring artists to make visual aids, or just using AI-generated thumbnails, which are very clearly pulling from a very limited dataset. Even if they had art to show, I'm not sure they'd be all that willing to show it anyway, both because Avatar is a series that exclusively features a non-white cast, and you already know how the usual suspects are gonna poison the well for months, but also, as we demonstrated at the start of this video, the Avatar fandom is stupid.
Turn the friggin' frogs gay! Do you understand that? Turn the friggin' frogs gay! Serious crap gay!
Avatar's fanbase has never really been known for being able to process information in a productive way. To this day, a lot of people are convinced that the Avatar can't bend more than one element without Rava, despite us literally seeing Korra do it herself, but the announcement made this stupidity abundantly clear when the setting of a post-apocalyptic series after Korra, where the Avatar's reputation in the mud, led a lot of people to believe that this makes Korra the worst Avatar because she destroyed the world.
Now y'all are saying she's responsible for the world being destroyed, bro. There's gotta be a reason behind this.
Very astute.
Okay, so the Avatar fandom has always been weird about Korra in relation to Aang because woman, dark-skinned, brash and aggressive, you get the idea. Korra can't get away with half the shit Aang was able to get away with because the fanbase ripped her to pieces every single time. Korra gets blamed for losing the connection to the previous Avatars when it was Unalaq and Vatu who did that, and Korra's only crime was losing. There is a valid complaint in how Korra is made to take the L way more times in way more sadistic ways than necessary, but that's not a Korra problem, it's a Bryke problem. Bryke didn't write that because Korra is weak. Bryke wrote it because they wrote a brash, pompous 17-year-old girl specifically to take her down a peg and make her listen to her hairy dads because they are 50. Blaming Korra as a character for this is about as nonsensical as blaming Aang for almost ending the Avatar cycle completely, or locking himself off from the Avatar state because he couldn't let go of Katara. Hell, blaming Korra for the world ending is like blaming the 100-Year War on Roku. He did stop the war, and then Sozin killed him for it. This is literally the answer to when the world needed him most, he vanished from the start of the series. There was a century-long period of no Avatar, the world went to shit, and a lot of people are angry at the Avatar for not stopping the Fire Nation. And it turned out that what happened was the previous Avatar was killed and the Air Nomads were wiped out and nobody knew. So I think it's safe to say, just by virtue of pattern recognition, that there is more to the Seven Havens than meets the eye. The Avatar simply isn't powerful enough to cause a cataclysmic event. The energy that would require would not only take the Avatar state, it would likely rip her body apart to do so. If you want a likely culprit, I would suggest it's probably the Spirit laser cannon the size of several submarines that can rip through the very fabric of reality and form an entirely new spirit portal. You know, if something's gonna cause the Avatar equivalent of rapid onset climate change, it was probably that, you fucking moron. Hell, the fact that you can harness spirit vines into energy and weaponry means someone was likely doing that. Korra's time was a period of political instability, settler colonialism, racism, regicide, revolutionary wars, fascism, political backstabbing, massive weapons created to lay waste to the very land. Last time we saw the Earth Kingdom, it was trying to transition to a democracy and failed horribly at doing so. Leadership passing to some of the dumbest motherfuckers on the planet, and capitalistic billionaires causing destruction and war to enrich themselves. Any of these things could have caused a global cataclysm, and it was probably the capitalism because that's what's responsible for the global cataclysm in real life. The Seven Havens were almost certainly created by Korra, or at the very least the damage was abated and lessened by her in some way. She probably can't fight ecological collapse regardless of the cause, and all the Avatar can do is mitigate the damage. I promise you it will turn out that something, be it the Havens or some technology the Havens use, was created by Korra and could have very likely resulted in her death. But Lily, it says the public view the Avatar as humanity's destroyer. So? It says seen as. It doesn't say is. I don't know if any of you have noticed, but the general public in the world of Avatar is really fucking stupid. It looks like China, but it acts like America most of the time. The average person is either an asshole, an idiot, or both. Even in Legend of Korra, her biggest hurdle is the fact that she can't get anything done because brainless morons just keep getting in the way and blaming her for things she has no control over. Half the villains in both The Last Airbender and Korra have manipulated the gullible public into going along with something completely terrible, and one of the villains is just straight out, we should plunge the world into chaos for the true freedoms, and creates a power vacuum for a dictator. Goodness, Zahir, who could have seen that coming, you know, aside from any passing 6-year-old? Given that it's only a decade after Korra's death, the population of the Havens probably isn't the best and brightest of the world. The Seven Havens almost line up completely with the Six Nations, so at least one of those is going to be made up of the witless wonders that populated the United Republic. Fuck, there it is right there. If anyone caused the apocalypse, it was likely the United Republic, a cacistocratic capitalist dystopia where idiots like this get to run roughshod over the entire land, exploiting it in the name of pure profit. Varric alone would have caused 15 Chernobyl disasters before Korra could get a bead on his location. So I think we're all in agreement that blaming Korra for everything out of the gate is just dumb. But what concerns me is that despite there being a precedent for the public are stupid, both in Avatar and in real life, people took the Avatar is seen as humanity's destroyer and immediately concluded that Korra did something to fuck up the world. Well, it doesn't concern me, I know exactly where it comes from. Korra is the subject of hyper-Watsonian critique, where almost every single plot event in Legend of Korra is solely blamed on her, even if she is nowhere near it, or if the culprit is very obviously someone else. I'll point it out again, Korra is often called a terrible avatar because she lost her connection to her past lives, but she lost it because Rava was ripped out of her and destroyed. Ultimately, Korra is considered to be at fault for being the victim of violence, which is just really fucked up. And this was only able to happen because this was the first time in 10,000 years that anybody knew that Rava existed. I don't understand how you can have that attitude towards a character that they're at fault for the violence inflicted on them. Conversely, when Aang was said to be a bad father due to personality failings that were abundantly clear in The Last Airbender, this was considered to be bad writing, because Aang is the perfect goodest little baby boy and can never be wrong. So when he is, people treat that like a mistake and shake their fist at Bryke for ruining his character. When Korra gets bounced across every flat surface in the Earth Kingdom, this is Korra being a terrible avatar. Male characters get doyless critique, female characters get Watsonian critique. Look, a lot of people have been dancing around this when they talk about this stuff, but I won't. This is just misogyny. I feel like a lot of people don't get this, but one of the ways in which bigotry manifests and tries to hide is in being hypercritical of someone based on what they are, treating a woman or a person of color or an LGBT person with far more scrutiny and bad faith than they would someone who isn't one of those things. This is exposed on the fact that a lot of people are cranky that the new Avatar is a girl instead of a guy, and some people are even saying, this is Korra 2.0. They're already priming themselves to react extremely poorly, which means they will no matter how good it is. Why is it two girls back to back? Probably because before then it was two boys back to back. That's why. Previous cycle was male, female, male, female. This cycle is male, male, female, female. They're both patterns and they both make sense. I've actually had this theory for a while that every cycle of 4 avatars has equal gender parity in some way. But the problem is that's treating that question like it has any merit. The new avatar is a girl because she just is. Now get the fuck over it. This is what reveals the bitch fit for what it is. The same misogyny that was going around last time. When the leaks first happened, the fanbase did not hesitate to show its disgust towards a dark-skinned girl being the new avatar. Oh, so like everyone who dislikes Korra is a misogynist and a racist. Is that what you're saying, Lily? Oh, well, not at all, Pixie. We can't forget Hanlon's razor. Stupidity is also an option. There just isn't an argument for Korra being the worst avatar that holds up to scrutiny, or at least I haven't heard someone make one yet. All Korra is ever really guilty of is being brutalized, and if you want to make an argument for the world's worst avatar, it's actually Kuruk or Roku or Aang who take that title, because all of them allowed severe harm to come as a result of their own inaction or unwillingness to engage in real change. Kuruk was straight up a lazy bastard.
It was my fault. If I had been more attentive and more active, I could have saved her.
But if you dare suggest that Aang makes a wrong decision, you're going to be on the end of a screaming fit from people who can't handle their precious little baby boy being in the wrong. Korra did not cause the apocalypse. The story is going to elaborate on that. Calm the fuck down.
Everything that you thought I would be is falling apart right in front of you.
So, with all that out of the way and hypersensitive men rushing off to natter away in a reaction stream, I'm actually quite enthused about Seven Havens. It seems much of the plot will be centered around figuring out what happened to destroy the world, otherwise they wouldn't be so coy about it. But the fact that the new avatar is supposedly a child means that the dishonest pretensions toward political subtext that killed Legend of Korra probably won't be repeated. It also means a complete clearing of the board. Korra was largely struggling under the weight of the last airbender, and it seems like Avatar Pavi, outside of solving a mystery, is going to get a chance to express her own identity. One issue I've had with Avatar as a franchise is an almost Zelda-like adherence to formula. Team Avatar is the thing I usually point to, as Break have expanded on Avatar Roku, Kyoshi, Kuruk, and Yang Chen, and almost all of them are given a team avatar consisting of all their teachers, a token non-bender, and at least 2 animal companions. That adherence to formula gets old after a while. Problem is, fandom takes comfort in the familiar. While I was workshopping Avatar Neva for a video discussing this exact problem, the big rule I had for it was that there was no team avatar, that every stage of the journey involves an almost completely new supporting cast, with Lavi being the only other protagonist, and almost immediately I was inundated with questions from my patrons trying to weasel those things back into the concept, as if the idea of doing Avatar without them is simply unthinkable. It reminds me of Legend of Zelda, which rigidly adheres to formula to such a degree that some people seriously think the presence of a green tunic is more important to a Zelda game than exploration and puzzle solve. The problem with this is that it sacrifices creativity for comfortable familiarity. A new Avatar should be an opportunity to explore not just a new type of character, but a new way of telling stories and new approaches to philosophy. This is why my idea involved an Avatar who is a skittish, flighty coward. It contrasts both Korra, who loves being the Avatar, and Aang, who hated it at first but rose to the occasion, with a character who hates being the Avatar and never comes to love it, always seeing it as an unwanted burden. How does a character like that actually be the Avatar? And what does that kind of character have to say about the Avatar's place in the world and what it means to be one? So setting Avatar in a post-apocalypse is at the very least interesting. It's not the first global upheaval Avatar's had, and it gives the opportunity to break out of the old rules that strangled the predecessor series. Granted, this doesn't mean it's guaranteed to do these things. Resetting the board is all well and good, but a problem that's been impacting the entire entertainment industry is that stories like this tend to hyper-inflate the stakes to existential threat to our very existence right out of the gate. Is this resetting of the board going to come with an introspective story about finding the truth hidden among lies? Or is it going to do what Korra did, set up too many characters and plot lines for the limited time it has? Seven Havens is setting out to be the shortest series, half the length of Legend of Korra. This is not enough time to do something like Vaatu or Kuvira properly. It's not enough time to set up the sheer avalanche of characters Korra had. Korra didn't even have enough time for those things. This is my only real concern with Seven Havens. Are you going to tell an interesting story with such a premise ripe for interesting stories, or are you just going to make more big fight scenes? Are you going to have interesting characters that explore interesting themes, or are you going to deluge two-dimensional characters all over the place and have too many to do anything with? Are you going to accept the time constraints you have, or are you going to cram a 65-episode series into 26 episodes? Are you going to take this chance for a completely fresh start, or will you waste that time on the kids and grandkids of the previous cast? Only time will tell if this is the case, but previous examples from Break make this an omnipresent issue hanging over the series, so temper your expectations. What do I want to see, though? Easy. Given that the story is twofold about the Avatar reuniting with her sister and discovering the mystery behind why she's become so hated, what I want to see is a story that explores those two things to its fullest it possibly can. I want it to just be about those two things and to do it really well. I don't want Seven Havens to take any of the traditional Avatar stuff. Build your cast differently. Give Pavi a different relationship with her bending. She's a child, so she's probably not bending all 4 elements anyway. If you're going to have animal companions, don't just make it mascot and mount. If you're going to have Team Avatar, don't just rigidly adhere to the same formula you had the last few times. Don't have Pavi get overshadowed by male characters around her. Let Pavi's relationship with her sister be front and center, and for fuck's sake, don't do a jealousy plot. If you have to emulate one of the old pairs of siblings, you do Mako and Bolin or Sokka and Katara. Do not do Zuko and Azula. We have fucking had enough of that shit. Don't do old shit. Don't recycle the old formula just because it's familiar. I want new things with this series. I want new stuff. New. Only new. Those are my reasonable expectations. Now let's get to the unreasonable ones. If what I suspect is true and Korra's responsibility for the apocalypse is in fact a red herring, then I suspect the real culprit must have lied about their responsibility. At the same time this came out, I had been both replaying Horizon Zero Dawn and watching the Chernobyl series, and I find that both are applicable here. Horizon is about uncovering the mystery of what caused the apocalypse, and what caused it was a greedy corporation that believed itself incapable of failing, run by a reckless and delusional idiot, whose last act was to desperately hide his involvement from those who inherited the Earth. The Chernobyl series is mostly about the efforts to contain the Chernobyl disaster, but what it's actually about is the all-singing, all-dancing shit show that was the Soviet Union, a nation so obsessed with not being embarrassed and projecting a facade of strength that it freely lied and endangered the entire planet. The first line spoken in the series is, "What is the cost of lies?" I feel both of these are the perfect vector for the new series. Let's face it, a big reason they blew up the world in the first place was that Bright doesn't want to deal with the existence of the United Republic in 2026 after the twin horrors of the Russo-Ukrainian War and the Gaza genocide. But having it be that the United Republic, along with the ethical voids that are Future Industries and Varric Global Industries, caused the apocalypse and then blamed Avatar Korra, would just be a natural conclusion, honestly. It would simultaneously deal with the issue of the United Republic's existence by making it apparent that this was always a mistake to form this nation in the first place. It was the primary cause of much of Korra's grief as the Avatar, and was formed by her predecessor's fear of real impactful change. Do I think that's likely to happen? Of course not. This would require a severe progressive shift from Bryke, and I don't think that happened. They're only getting older and wealthier, and those are not ideal conditions to have some kind of great awakening. So I think my simplest, most reasonable desire is, good or bad, just don't recycle the same shit. Don't be boring. I'm CD Call, thanks for watching.